It's time for the week's Top 30. Hey, everybody, I'm Blake Shelton, and these are a few of my hits.
I'll be your honeybees. You name the babies and I'll name the dogs. But I don't mind being the guy with the girl. No.
I have a song in the countdown this week, and it sounds like this. Man, I live. We'll play that song and talk about my new Nashville bar as I count down the hits with Lon Helton of Country Air Check. Right now, here's Lon with this week's hottest song.
Well, thanks, Blake. And our radio stations give the honor to David Lee Murphy and Kenny Chesney. Everything's going to be all right. David Lee Murphy and Kenny Chesney with the week's hottest song, Everything's Going to Be All Right. But will things be all right for David Lee when we get to the top of this week's chart? We're going to find out a little bit later on Country Countdown USA. Each week, I'm joined by a top country star who stops by the studio to give me a hand counting down the hits. Along this week, somebody you haven't seen in, guess, about a year here on the show, Blake Shelton. How are you?
I still think that's wrong. I don't wait a year to see you, do I?
You're a busy guy.
You haven't invited me. I haven't had any hits. That's what it is.
I'm not sure that's the case, but I do know you're pretty busy between The Voice, and we'll talk a lot about that as we get along. Ole Red, the new club that you seem to be pretty active in, not just sticking your name on there.
Excited about it.
Big night with CMT Awards. Won two of those?
Won two of them,
including the big one.
Yeah, Video of the Year. That may be the first time I've ever won that award. But that was what an honor. I'm proud that I get to be considered in the current group of country artists, you know.
And we'll talk more about CMT Awards, talk about Kelly Clarkson and The Voice, and I think you predicted she was going to win.
Sore subject.
Yeah,
okay.
So we'll do that last. Okay. And, of course, song in the top 5, I Lived It, so lots to do with Blake Shelton as we get along. Right now, though, we'll get things started at number 30, Brothers Osborne and Shoot Me Straight. Brothers Osborne kicking off the week's top 30, that's Shoot Me Straight. Blake Shelton's in the co-host chair this week. We mentioned a bit ago, the top 5 hit you have right now is I Lived It. Let's talk about that song a little bit and where it fits on the album and where it fits just
in the world.
In the world.
This thing is so country. To me, anyway, it seems like a throwback, you know, to country music, even the lyrical content and the sound of the record, the production.
Yeah. Production, yeah.
So I wanted to get this out there. One more stab at getting this to, you know, a simple country ballad played on the radio, you know. And my gosh, look at it. It's in the top 5, you know. It's just been exciting to see it jump up there and doing well. People relate to it, and you know, I haven't noticed in the last couple of years a song that I've released that so many people come up and they have something to say about the song and what it means to them. You know, there's not a lot of people say, "Man, I named the dogs," you know. but with I Lived It, you know, it hits something, you know, deep inside of them, and they've got a story about it. Or man, my uncle actually did put tobacco on my freaking hand, you know, when I got stung. Or my mom had a box fan, you know. It's all these things that they relate to. They want to tell you about it, you know. It's pretty cool.
Well, we'll talk more about it in a little bit. Right now, our co-host Blake Shelton, his current top 5, and I Lived It. Sugarland and Taylor Swift again at number 28. That's Babe. Blake Shelton's my co-host this week. You began this year in Mexico with Luke Bryan and at the annual Crash My Playa. And Luke was in here not long after that as our co-host, and he told me that there were a few unwanted guests one day.
I go down to the beach in front of my house, and there is a guy with a camera that has like a 4-foot lens on it. And I'm like, oh my God, the paparazzi has found Blake and Gwen. So I text Blake, and I'm like, you know, there's a guy down here with a camera. Well, Blake didn't get my text message. Here comes Blake and Gwen down the beach. Blake does his customary, like, grope me and try to kiss me on the cheek.
Oh, no.
Well, the next morning, there it is on the cover of Entertainment Tonight. That guy went down the beach and photographed all of us, and there I am on all the gossip columns getting smooched by Blake Shelton yet again.
Yeah, Luke probably has a good case built up against me if he ever wants to sue me for some kind of harassment or something. I just get excited when I see him, you know. I can't help it. But that was funny. I remember that day. And in my defense, if Gwen's not around, that doesn't happen. I mean, do you want a picture of me in my Crocs and white legs, or Gwen Stefani in a swimsuit, you know, walking down the street looking like, you know, an angel? So it's her fault. Always blame it on her. So I think they even crop me out of a lot of pictures when they have a good one of her. So
that's good. And I didn't see those photos, but is there a newsflash here? Were you wearing shorts on the beach?
Because I was in Mexico, like in a remote area, I thought, wow, I'm going to actually cut off some of my jeans.
Because you told me once that you did not do that.
No. Got me a good pair of my work jeans and cut the legs off and had some shorts.
Jason Aldean and Miranda Lambert entering the countdown at number 26, Drowns the Whiskey. My co-host is Blake Shelton. Up next is a guy that you know, Chris Jansen.
I got to tell you, Chris Jansen I didn't realize it at first. I knew he had some great music, but I took him out on tour with me, and his stage presence, I don't know, I'm sure you've seen Chris perform at this point. I mean, he's he's literally a wild human being when he gets on stage. Like, he does not hold back.
Yeah.
And it's so fun because the music is not uncontrolled. He just is, and so he's making great music. He sounds good. He's playing harmonica. He's, shredding his guitar. He's stomping his feet around everywhere. And I remember when he was out on tour with me, I would, invite him to come on the bus, have a drink with me or whatever, or come into the dressing room and have a drink with me. And he doesn't drink. He will not drink, but he will kill some Mountain Dew. I mean, I've never
explains it, actually.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen Chris Jansen in normal walking around life without a Mountain Dew in his hand. And he weighs 80 pounds. How does he do it? It drives me crazy.
I understand. Talking about Chris Jansen, he's at 25 with Drunk Girl. Chase Rice at number 23, that's Three Chords and the Truth. Blake Shelton's in the co-host chair this week. We talked a little bit at the start about The Voice. I don't know if you predicted that Kelly Clarkson would win her first year on The Voice, but you said at the start you were worried about her.
Well, I think what I said was I'm going to allow her to win.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah, because it's my show. I own it. And I decided, to just kind of, lay back and let the kid win one. and just so she had her confidence up. So, because it's way more fun to beat somebody when their confidence is up than to kick them while they're down, So this next season when I beat her, it's going to be a extra shocking smack to the forehead for her.
We were talking about it before you came in, just about how great it was that because the two of you are such good friends, it was almost a brother and sister where she could pick on you, but if Adam picked on you, then she was on your side.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was great to watch.
It was. She is like a sister to me, literally, and I've known her so long, and I don't think of her in any other way than that. And you're right, I can pick on Kelly, but he better not pick on Kelly, And, having said that, it's cool that she won because I don't know that any of us put as much overtime into it as she did. At CMA Fest week, I saw her at the CMT Awards walking around backstage with one of her contestants from this season that, she's showing them around backstage, and she's the real deal, and when she says she's going to take care of somebody, she damn sure does it.
And of course, we're talking about The Voice with one of the coaches, and we will get back to talking about it in a bit with Blake Shelton. Right now, it is back to the countdown at 22. Justin Moore, Kinda Don't Care. That's Thomas Rhett at number 21, Life Changes. My co-host this week is Blake Shelton. Before we leave Thomas, I was actually watching the fourth hour of the Today Show with you and Hoda from CMA Fest a couple of weeks ago. Thomas Rhett joined you at one point and was talking about his family. And Hoda tried to take you someplace with that conversation. and you handled that so well as she started talking about his kids.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I told her, too, she's trying to get me to talk about Gwen and I, if we're going to have kids, if we're going to get married, and it's like when the camera goes off, I go, they make you say that, don't they? You had to do that, didn't you? And she just has this look like, yeah, I got a job to do. But I've learned over the years that you can't even give them a peek through the door, because if you do, they're going to knock that. They're going to just beat it to death, and so you just got to shut it down.
I think your answer when she was going there was, I really enjoy hearing about Thomas Rhett's life. And I think you said that 2, maybe 3 times. Yeah. I really enjoy hearing about his family. I thought that was good. That was good. Up next to the countdown at number 20, here's Sam Hunt. Downtown's Dead. Sam Hunt jumping up 5 to number 20, Downtown's Dead. Blake Shelton's my co-host this week. Your current top 5 is I Lived It. But I want to go back and talk about the number 1, I'll Name the Dogs. After a song called I'll Name the Dogs goes number 1, you can do just about any song you want ever, it would seem to me.
Well, I just wanted to stay as long as we can, in the countryest lane we can, as long as I can. It just is what it is for me. But you're right. I'll Name the Dogs is that's arguably even countryer than I Lived It. I see what you're saying there. But,
especially when you turn dogs into a 2-syllable word.
Well, I learned that from many of my heroes in country music. You can figure out a way to make the word fit depends on how you hold your mouth, I guess.
And dogs. And we mentioned you won 2 CMT awards for that a couple weeks ago. Keith Urban presented the Video of the Year at the end. And when you came up to get the award, he said something to you. Do you remember what he said?
If I'm not mistaken, I may have presented an award to him last year, and I think he said something like, it's your turn or something. I can't remember. He's got a weird accent. It's like, I don't know what that is. It's Australian or something.
It's East Nashville. Here's my co-host Blake Shelton, and I'll Name the Dogs. Brett Young up 1 to number 18 with Mercy. Blake Shelton's my countdown co-host this week. I told you before that you're a great spokesperson, because every time I saw you at the CMT Awards or other things, you're standing in front of the sign that says Ole Red. So how is it being a bar owner? And you got one in Tishomingo as well. And
it's a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie. And thank God I have, the partners with the Ryman people that actually just pretty much do everything. It's just, so I get to have the fun part, like booking talent and popping in whenever I want to, and maybe having a say-so about what kind of cheese dip I want to be in there. But I let them handle all the nuts and bolts and all that stuff, and I just get to kind of to tinker with it, and which I think is probably just enough. But I'm so proud of it, and of course, if CMT says to me, hey, will you mind being part of the opening of the show? And so my response is, do you mind if we do it in front of Ole Red? So it works for everybody.
I love that with, was it Jake Owen and John Party and Dustin Lynch?
Yeah.
Well, hang on to that for just a little bit, because I will come back and talk some more about Ole Red in just a little bit. Right now, though, at number 17, here's Lady Antebellum and Heartbreak. Lady Antebellum at number 17 with Heartbreak. Blake Shelton is this week's Countdown co-host. We're just talking about your new Nashville bar, Ole Red. So Ole Red in Tishomingo has a stage as well.
It does.
On the rare times you're actually in Tishomingo, do you stop by? I mean, is there a stool with your name on it or anything, or in this corner? Or a big red chair? Or
it's funny. I've performed there now 3 times at Ole Red, inside the building there, and it's so much fun. And I've stopped in a couple of times, and it kind of disrupts the flow of the work there, and which is fun. It is fun, but I don't know how much the actual servers and people in there appreciate me coming through, But I try to stop in, and I'm happy to. It's just like you said, I'm not home as much, with being out in L.A. a lot, but I always stop by whenever I can.
Could open one in L.A.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
You think Ole Red would do good in?
I don't know. I insist on having deer heads, and I don't know if that would go over in L.A. or not, but I don't care.
And we are talking about Ole Red. That's the new Nashville bar that bears the name of my co-host Blake Shelton. As we head back to the countdown here at 16, it's Dylan Scott and Hooked. Michael Ray at number 15, Get to You. Blake Shelton's my co-host this week, and we were just talking about The Voice, and you guys coming up on what, the 15th season of this, and it just struck me, how many contestants through the years do you think you've seen in these 15 seasons of the show?
Let's say we see 80 to 100 in the blind auditions, and times 15, so
that's 1,000 singers. How do you stay excited about this?
It's just the unknown, I think, of it. It's by the time you get to the finale of a season, you're definitely tired, and there's no way not to be a little bit burnt out and ready for a break, But as the blind auditions for the next season starts getting closer, I start getting excited about it, and more excited about it, and that that moment that now has happened so many times, where you hear those footsteps, behind you on that stage, and you don't know if that's about to be the next Carrie Underwood, or the next Kelly Clarkson, because they're out there and they just need that break, that opportunity, and they may just wander up on that stage, so there's no way to not think about that when you're about to hit that button.
Yeah, and of course we're talking about The Voice, and in just a little bit we're going to get a guy who has a big hit that was a contestant on The Voice about 9 seasons ago, and we'll do that with my co-host Blake Shelton. Right now, though, at 14, here's Carrie Underwood and Cry Pretty.
I wanna kiss somebody.
Morgan Evans again at number 12 with Kiss Somebody. Blake Shelton's my co-host this week. Latest album, Texoma Shore. We talked a long time ago about making If I'm Honest, and I wonder if you use the same approach with this in terms of how you went about working with songwriters and telling them bits about your life that you wanted to kind of put in a song.
With Texoma Shore, we weren't even... I guess we're always thinking about making a record. That's not fair to say, but I wasn't in that mode in my mind. All it really happened was I was pitched I'll Name the Dogs, and I loved the song so much that I wanted to show to the songwriters how serious I was about I'm going to record this. So I just went and recorded it, even though we were smack in the middle of the If I'm Honest record. I didn't want it to get away, And I think that's the right thing to do for the writers too. Mm-hmm. And along with that song, we had recorded about 3 others. I don't remember the order of them, but it was clear to me that we had something there, and I just wanted to keep going with it. And so we weren't planning on getting out of the If I'm Honest album so quickly. But, it's weird. When I made that album, I was in a totally different state of mind, total different place, and coming from, just all this darkness and the breakup. And so as long as that was the album that I was still in, I was kind of still in that world,
Yeah, I get it.
And so, and it just felt good to go, you know what, that chapter's closed now, and the only way I can really close it is just to let that go now and come with some new music, and when you hear this album, you can tell I'm in a completely different frame of mind. I'm just I'm in a good spot now.
And we are talking about Texoma Shore, the new album from my co-host Blake Shelton, as Blake and I head back to the countdown here at number 11, Keith Urban, Coming Home.
Take it back.
That's Jake Owen at number 10. I was Jack, you were Diane. We're counting down the hits here with Blake Shelton. We talked earlier about the Country Music Freaks tour that you put together. What was that about?
Well, when I looked at who the lineup was going to be, take Carly out of it, it's not fair for her, but Brett is, he's 6'6", Trace is 6'6" or 7, I think I'm 6'4" or 5, and it's like, man, this is a bunch of like circus freaks. I just thought that would be a fun way. Honestly, all I could think about was the signage and how fun that would be.
And you mentioned Brett Eldridge, and when he was in here, he did take the occasion to apologize for forgetting your song.
The first night on tour, he said, we're going to do All About Tonight together. I was like, I'm all in. It might take me a minute to memorize all the lyrics. And so I get up there, and I've rehearsed 100 times backstage and had everybody quiz me. And so I go up there, and I sing a few of the lines, and I'm right. And then I go to look at the paper on the floor, and he keeps looking at me and eyeing me. And I know he's going to catch me on it. And then all of a sudden we start singing together, and I kind of blank on the chorus a little bit, and it's kind of like him and the crowd singing. He just starts giving me hell. He picks up the lyric sheet and shows it to the crowd, and he says, by the end of this tour, Brett Eldridge is going to learn my song.
He was so fun to have out there. Speaking of somebody with energy, and he's just always got a smile, and he's a good dude. But yeah, he did forget the words there. I think he did more than once, because now that he mentioned letting the crowd sing along, I saw that microphone several nights pointing out to the crowd like, you guys sing it.
Well, as long as we're talking about Brett, we really should play a song of his, and this one went top 5 not too long ago. It's The Long Way. After a week at number 1, Darius Rucker at number 9. That's For the First Time. Blake Shelton is along as my countdown co-host this week. Of course, summer in country music means you're out on the road. A lot of fairs and festivals, outdoor type shows. Does Gwen travel with you when you do these?
She does. She comes to she's with me a lot more than people probably realize, and it's just up to her whether she wants to come out and be a part of the show, or today I kind of want to lay back or whatever. And so, but she's there with me a lot, especially these festival shows where it's just an easy in and out day. You know, she'll always. She loves to come along and bring the boys with her. They have fun. You know, it's these festivals always have that fair, the rides and crazy food and all that. So, but it's going to be tough for her now. She's got the Vegas residency, so she's going to be tied there for months at a time sometime.
Dan and Shay up a couple to number 7, Tequila. Blake Shelton is this week's Countdown co-host, and up next at number 6 is Morgan Wallen along the Florida-Georgia line. And one of the things that people may not fully realize that he was actually a contestant on The Voice.
And I didn't remember that either. And somebody told me he wasn't on my team. So last season of The Voice, I talked to the producers. I said, "Hey, you realize there's this kid Morgan Wallen that's got a big hit in country music right now. It's with Florida-Georgia line, and it's taking off, you know." And I said, y'all need to actually book him on the show, so it'd be like, look, somebody's killing it that was on The Voice. And Morgan, I don't know if Morgan may not see it that way, but
I can hardly wait till you come back in future years and after you have met Morgan, because I'd be interested to hear his take.
Right.
As a matter of fact, actually, now that I think about it, he is coming in here with the guys from FGL to do the countdown, and so we
play
can
him this then. Morgan, this is Blake Shelton, and I'm sorry I didn't pick you for my team for The Voice, or you didn't pick me. I can't remember how it went down, but congratulations to you, buddy. You're actually giving us some credibility on the show.
You could use a big star, huh? That's my co-host Blake Shelton at number 5 with I Lived It. And before we do that, we talked about the song earlier. Let's talk a little bit about the video and just the flashbacks to people in your life, and might even be a young Blake in there.
Yeah, better looking young Blake than the real one was. Yeah, that video was we shot that just outside of L.A. And I was wondering, you know, how it's not going to look like where I grew up, but the way things time out, you just kind of got to do them when you can do them, where you can do them. And they actually found a place that looked a lot like where I grew up there outside of Ada, Oklahoma, that had a little farm pond and there were big trees. It didn't look like what you think of.
In California, exactly. You found a place that looked like Ada, Oklahoma?
It had green, actually had some green there, you know. And so I got really excited when I saw the setup, and they'd been telling me, no, you don't understand. Well, this is going to work. And then just the overall feel of the video, I think, was what was most important. It was neat to have that little boy there, that was supposed to be the young me, and he disappears. I was a couple times there like, okay, he's going to run by, just watch him, and now act like he's running by and you're watching him because he kind of fades away, and so it's always neat to see how those videos get put together at the end.
And of course, we're talking about the video for I Lived It, which is the current hit for my co-host Blake Shelton, as we head on in the countdown here to number 4, Kane Brown in Heaven. Dierks Bentley up 1 to number 2. That's Woman, Amen. Blake Shelton's this week's countdown co-host. We now come to the number 1 song of the week by a guy who I think you met on the Opry Hunt earlier this year, talking about Luke Combs. And when he was in here as my co-host, he told us about a funny thing that happened there.
On the way back to the airport, we stopped. It was me and him. And, man, I tell you what, if I could go everywhere with Blake Shelton, I would, because nobody would ever notice me. Ever.
Right.
Because he's Blake Shelton. He's like 6'5", he's like hard to mistake, And we went in, man, there was this gal working the counter, and she must have been 9.5 months pregnant. I mean, she was like ready to give birth in there. And I thought she was going to have the baby when Blake Shelton walked through that door, man. Like I walked in and she was she kind of just tilted her head a little bit, and then he walked in and she was just like, she was dropping 4-letter words like you wouldn't believe in there, buddy. It was, and he's just so nice to everybody, man. So he's just great.
That's funny. I remember that clearly. We on the Opry duck hunt. I was excited because I'd never met Luke before, so when I found out he was going to be there, it was exciting to me, because this kid is just. He's such a talented singer, such a talented songwriter, but I didn't know anything else about him, you know. And Luke's kind of a quiet guy too, you know. I didn't know what his personality would be like, but he can be a little bit shy at times. Of course, I'm sure that might have been overwhelming to be on that duck hunt, and John Conley's there, and Luke's the new guy, you know. But I really enjoyed sitting around talking with him, and he was kind of sick on that trip actually, so he didn't get to get outside much. So I spent a lot of time just sitting around talking to him, getting to know him, what his story was, and I remember one night we all sat around and passed around the guitar. Craig Morgan was there. We sang some songs, and you know, Craig sang "Almost Home," I think, and I looked over at Luke, and Luke was having this freak out fan moment, like he was beside himself. He couldn't be still, and it was just like, oh yeah, Craig's songs were probably the ones that were hitting home with Luke when he was in high school, or however old he was, you know. And it was neat to see that that generational thing.
And that quiet guy we've been talking about, Luke Combs, has the #1 song in the USA, "One Number Away." Luke Combs, his third #1, "One Number Away." And there they are, the top 30 country hits in the USA as compiled by Country Air Check. Of course, we've been counting them down with Blake Shelton in between work on The Voice and hanging out at your bar, Ole Red. You have
hard to get me away from there.
You actually have some dates where you're singing.
I do. I'm going to be in Chicago at Lake Shake on June 22nd. You better come to that. Milwaukee Summerfest on July 6th. Salinas, California on the July 13th. And Pendleton, Oregon, 14th. Faster Horses up in Michigan on the 20th. And then Country Jam in Wisconsin on the 21st.
Of course, the current hit is "I Lived It." Best luck with that. As always, man, I appreciate the time. Thanks for helping me.
Thank you, buddy. Loved it.